To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por
We
favor,
invite you, if
manténganse
you dare,
alejados de
step
las
forward,
puertas.
because in tonight's episode, you will be stuck in this elevated travel.
Doorless chambers.
Hello and welcome to Miles from Main Street, your Far From Disney podcast. My name is Mikhailo,
And I'm Brian,
and we're here to talk about Disney World,
but especially coping away from Disney.
which we know a lot about being from the Midwest.
Today we're here to talk about planning tips, reviews, current events, coping strategies, and even a little history while we're at it.
Cool, so planning tips. Brian, what do you got for planning tips for the Magic Kingdom?
Yeah, so when I'm planning my trip, I'm always looking at Magic Kingdom needing 2 days. Magic Kingdom is going to take 2 days. There is way too much to do, and you're probably not going to see it all in that amount of time either. But a good strategy in doing that is looking at cutting the park in half. You really could do the whole Adventureland, Frontierland, and Liberty Square section in one day, Fantasyland and Tomorrowland in the other section. It really splits it up, gets some of those big hitters split up so you're not, having to wait in all of those lines. It's a really good way to do it. And if you're going to be there for an extended period, you're probably going to end up in Magic Kingdom anyway. So take your time, enjoy the details, and as a lot of people will say, look up because you want to see everything that's there.
Oh, yeah, I 100% agree. Not that I've ever actually had the luxury of taking 2 days to be at Magic Kingdom, but 100%. There's just so much to do and very little time to do it. And cutting the park in half is exactly what you want to do, especially if you want to be hitting any sort of dining and any sort of kind of like merchandise shopping, anything like that. Like you're gonna need a lot of time to do it. And it's so funny that we bring this up because Magic Kingdom is the smallest park out of all of the other parks. But you
sure
still
doesn't feel like it while
exactly.
you're there,
It does not feel like a small park. But yeah, I completely agree with cutting the park in half and kind of exploring it that way. And it's easy to do that with there being different lands. It's not as if you feel like you're missing out too much because you're kind of exploring these lands. And so it's set up to do that pretty well.
And when we were first going, we were killing ourselves trying to hit the whole park and trying to see as much as possible. And at that time, I believe Magic Kingdom was staying open till midnight. I mean, obviously right now they're not doing that, but
Mm-hmm.
you get there at 8 o'clock and you go until midnight, and then the next day you're done. You can't do anything, So
Oh, yeah.
it's always good to split it up, take your time, and enjoy what's there, so you're not just running from place to place.
Yeah, definitely. I can attest to going a little bit too hard at Magic Kingdom. I've had days where I've just like killed my feet and I've had calluses on my heels because we've been running from one thing to another. I can remember running after my brother as he was trying to go get good seats for the fireworks and just like being worn out because we tried to do the whole park in one day. But yeah, my planning tip is using Disney provided services. It's kind of a holistic view at this tip, but Magic Kingdom is you can use this one a lot because of the shopping that they have there. I spend way too much money at Magic Kingdom. For some reason the merchandise there is just on point all the time, and so I end up spending a lot more money there on merchandise than any other park. And one of the services that they have there is package drop off. So you can go and you can buy a package, you can buy merchandise, and they will actually have it shipped to your hotel, and you can go pick that up at the gift shop. So you don't have to be lugging around all of these packages, all of the Disney plushes that you buy and all of the Mickey ears that you buy. You don't have to be lugging those around all the time. You can just have them shipped to your hotel. Now, this only works if you're staying on property. If you're staying off property, they're not going to be able to do this. However, they will ship your package to the front of the park, and you can pick it up at guest services. So that's another thing you can do. They're not going to ship it to your hotel, but you can pick it up at the front of the park.
Yeah, it's a great service. I've used it many times, and it really saves. And I always like, okay, we want to send it. And it takes a couple more minutes to fill out the form and make sure it's done right, but it's worth it. You don't have to carry it around. Even when we had our kids with the strollers, and it's like, we'll just throw it in the back of the stroller. Well, you got to carry it onto the ride then, and
Yep.
it really gets to be a problem. So yeah, I think if you're checking out the next day, they won't send it. You have to send it to the front of the park at that point, but still picking it up on your way to the bus or to your car or whatever it may be, great service.
Oh yeah. And there's plenty of other services too. They have, I mean, FastPass. Not everyone knows about FastPass. And not everybody utilizes FastPass the correct way. I'm sure we'll go over that in the future. But even down to transportation, some people end up renting a car and going to Disney and not using Disney transportation. Disney transportation can take you pretty much anywhere you want to go in Disney. They even have their Lyft service, which is, I'm pretty sure it's run by Lyft, like it's run through the Lyft app, and you'll get picked up by minivans, which are actually dressed up to look like Minnie, which is kind of a funny joke.
That might actually be ending. The rumors flying that they're ending that service.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, which is sad because I like the idea. I almost used it on our last trip. Kind of messed up what we were doing that morning and should have used it, but it seemed really slick, easy to do. It is a little more expensive than a regular Lyft. But back to your transportation point, using the bus at Magic Kingdom is probably your best bet rather than having to go through the TTC.
Yeah.
Because the bus is going to drop you off right up by the gate instead of having to jump on a ferry or the monorail to get across that or around the river, however you want, or the lake, getting around the lake. And that was the beauty of the minivans as well, is that they drop you off up where the buses go, so you're right up front. Whereas Uber and Lyft, they're not allowed to do that.
Yeah. So those are some pretty good planning tips that we can give you guys, a little bit of our knowledge with the Magic Kingdom. Next up, we're going to talk about, we're going to review Be Our Guest. Brian, do you want to kind of go over that?
Yeah, so Be Our Guest is a very popular restaurant in Fantasyland. It's the Beauty and the Beast castle. It's, at dinner time, the Beast is there. You get to meet him, and they have 3 separate rooms: the ballroom, they have the rose room, which is really cool to walk into and see the rose. It's really dark in there, so if you don't mind not seeing your food, it's otherwise it's a stormy night type of thing, and so it's kind of dark in there. But,
yeah, it's very cool.
And then help me with the other room. I walked over there. It's got a lot of booths. It's not really the ballroom though. It's kind of
the other room is I think it's like they call it like the foyer or something. But it's just like it's almost like a standard like dining room kind of with like it's a little bit less themed than the other two.
There's a
but it's
large
still,
statue in the middle of it though.
yeah, yep.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a big space. But for breakfast and dinner, it's quick service, but it's a flat rate. So $30 for your breakfast, which is pricey.
Yeah.
Now, when I was able to go, we did go for breakfast, and it was my wife and I, and we split. We only ordered one breakfast. So at the time it was $25. They've raised it to 30. But you can pick a platter or a sandwich or something breakfast, and they will bring that out to your table through the magic of magic bands. They know where you're sitting. And so this cart will just automatically appear next to your table no matter where you've sat, and they hand you your food. But the reason we were able to split it is that they also give you a very large platter of uh, pastries that just comes with your meal that no one person should be eating for breakfast. Um, and then there were a couple of drink options in there. I think we had a soda and some juice, which was all part of the deal. And then we had to order the cupcake, the master's cupcake, because we needed to try the gray stuff.
Mhm.
So $25 split between the two of us was a little easier to swallow at that point, but it was kind of pricey. And lunch is the same deal. Menu changes, but it's also a flat price, quick service type of deal. Just come in. You do need to have reservations, though. You cannot just walk in like any other quick service restaurant. And then for dinner is going to be at a 2 credit meal if you're on the dining plan. I am blanking on the price right now. I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $60 to $70 each.
Yep. That sounds pretty much right. I was pretty sure it was $69.99 or something like that.
So yeah, so that's per person. But you do get to meet the Beast when you finish your meal and have pictures taken with him. So there is, that added bonus as part of your dinner. And I've heard the food is good. So
Yes, I've heard that too. And this is something that so I have never actually eaten there. I've seen the inside in YouTube videos and stuff. But this is something that we're going to run into often. Where being from the Midwest, we don't get to just all of a sudden make reservations for Be Our Guest. And for me, the struggle, because Be Our Guest just looks amazing. Just being able to eat in those spaces looks amazing. Just one of my favorite parts is that it's snowing outside, and they have an LED wall inside, and it kind of makes it look like it's snowing outside. And I thought that was the coolest thing. But just trying to get reservations to Be Our Guest for me has always been pretty difficult, and especially trying to line that up with a once a year trip is also pretty difficult too. So something we're going to run into with us two being from the Midwest is not getting to do uh, the things that you always want to do, and not being able to get around to all of those things. Be Our Guest is definitely one of the ones on my bucket list, and something that I want to do.
it's a once type of option that if you really are into Beauty and the Beast, you should probably try it. The
Oh
rose,
yeah.
the falling petals on the rose effect in that room is really, really cool.
Mm. Cool. So moving on to some Disney current events. My current event that I have is it's pretty simple. Disney has waived cancellation and change fees till the end of the year. So basically, that means that you can cancel or change your Disney reservation, and they will not charge you for it. And this is only through Disney itself. If you're booking through any other kind of agency, they may have cancellation fees that may be different. But if you book through Disney, cancellation or change fees will not happen if you end up needing to cancel or move your vacation.
Yeah, which is a great benefit because of the world we live in right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowed up to, I believe, the day before you would check in to cancel if need be.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that things are changing constantly. We had made plans to meet up with a friend tonight just to exchange some money quick for something, and she had to cancel because she now has to go get tested.
Wow.
So she's quarantining, and so when you're changing things in an instant like that, to know that your trip is okay and you're going to get your money back if need be,
Hmm.
that's great. Disney's at least taking care of us right there.
Exactly. Disney taking that extra step to make sure that if things do come up, which I'm sure things are coming up for plenty of people,
Hmm.
Disney kind of taking that extra step to make sure that this isn't another thing that you have to worry about.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about Splash Mountain a little bit. As you may have heard, they are going to be changing it to Princess and the Frog. The
They're what?
I
I
right.
have not heard of this.
It made some of the mainstream news this time around. So
Yeah.
we do not have a closing date. We don't know when this is going to happen. When the news broke, the story from Disney was that they were already planning to do this for about a year. They did give us some uh, uh, sample artwork and some, some mock-ups, and it looks beautiful. It looks
Hmm.
like it's going to be really, really cool. I love Princess and the Frog, so I'm all for it. Uh, if you're not aware, the characters that Splash Mountain uses right now comes from a movie called Song of the South, which does not have a very good background, especially in this day and age.
Hmm.
So they have walked away from that. And with recent events with Black Lives Matter, there has been an outcry for them to remove these characters from Splash Mountain. So we don't know for sure if they have been to that or not, but they have announced they will be changing it to Princess and the Frog, which I think is going to be excellent.
Yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction for Disney. I definitely have good feelings for Splash Mountain. It's definitely one of my favorite rides, but I think Princess and the Frog definitely works for what's there already. It's not too big of a stretch to kind of make that transition. So I'm definitely happy with it, and I'm happy with Disney taking some initiative. Yeah, and I think it's great. I know a lot of people who are none too happy about getting rid of Splash Mountain, but you're gonna have that with these beloved attractions getting changed. You're always gonna have some people that aren't too happy about it. But I'm pretty happy that it's gonna be Princess and the Frog because I do love that movie. It's a great movie.
I think it's going to be a really great addition. Uh, I'm a D23 member, a gold member,
Hmm.
so they've been pushing a lot of virtual content recently. And over the weekend, I got to watch a kind of just a talk surrounding Disneyland's 65th anniversary.
Hmm.
And they had four different Imagineers on there, and they were discussing many different things about Disneyland. And one of the Imagineers, I believe it was Kim Irvine, said, if you look at opening day Disneyland and you look at it now, there's nothing there that's not been touched and fixed up. And I mean that was after a discussion of how they had to change Rivers of America just to fit Star Wars in.
Yeah.
So, they make sure though when they are changing something that they're taking their time and really considering what they're doing and knowing that it's not going to come over as popular right away, but what they replace it with has got to be much better than what they're taking out. And when I hear that coming from Imagineers, I don't worry about it. Because a lot of times in the communities, you hear these types of changes come in and people start freaking out. And I have yet to be disappointed.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Waiting for one of us to mention Walt, who once said that Disneyland is never going to be complete. Disneyland is always going to be changing. That's coming from the mouth of the guy who started this all, and it's completely true. All the way to places like Epcot and Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom, these places are constantly changing. It does get kind of annoying sometimes when you're in Disney World and it feels like everything's under construction, but when these places get done and everything looks perfect the way that they want to look, it's breathtaking and it's amazing. Just being in places like Avatar Land when it's finally finished is just it's worth the wait.
It really is the
Yeah.
way they're able to build upon, or as Walt would say, plus it.
Mm-hmm.
They really do a good job. And so when we are given information on changes that are coming, like Splash Mountain, I'm all for it. Let's go. Let's do it.
100%. So let's get to coping with being far away from Disney and some of the things that we do. Some of the things that I've been doing lately has been kind of scouring Facebook and going through some of the different Facebook groups that I'm in. My sister and we both really enjoy Haunted Mansion, and we actually came across a Haunted Mansion fan group, and it's just littered with the type of content that we want to see, and we've just been tagging each other constantly on some of this stuff. And so it's just kind of like finding those things. Like you found your niche with Disney, if that's what you want. If you're listening to this, most likely you have, and just kind of like having that sense of community within Facebook, and just kind of knowing that there's people out there just like you. That was always kind of what I thought was great when I started to take in media from other people who like Disney as much as I do, and it kind of felt welcoming. Um, and so it's always cool to kind of find something else new with this new little sect of Disney nerds who also like Haunted Mansion as much as I do. So it's very fun. It's very cool, and it kind of keeps things going. Not that as much as I love Disney, I don't think anything would ever get stale, but it's just kind of like finding new things and like finding these new outlets. Something else I've been doing for coping with Disney is I've been kind of going on a health kick. This is going on about 4 months, pretty much once COVID hit, and I was able to work from home. I've been a little bit more conscious about what I'm doing and my health and everything. And so I'll do a lot of treadmill rides, and what I'll do is I'll turn on walkthroughs, Disney walkthroughs, and I'll run on the treadmill. And it's almost like I'm doing a Disney marathon because these people are walking through the park and I'm running. And I always thought that would be cool to do a Disney marathon. We'll see if I ever get there. I'll get to Disney and run through Disney, but whether or not I can run for an entire marathon is another question. But yeah, it's just kind of like being able to run, and I've even done videos where it's like the path in between Epcot and Hollywood Studios. Like people, I don't know who's crazier, the people that are doing the walkthroughs of that path or the person watching it and running. I don't know who's crazier. But yeah, just kind of taking in some of that media and being able to just like an ordinary thing, working out and running on a treadmill, incorporating Disney to that. I find it pretty great, and I like it a lot, being able to be in Disney and kind of just incorporate that into what I do.
One of the podcasts I was listening to, they had just done I think it may have been Marathon Weekend in January,
Mm-hmm.
and they got to Hollywood Studios, and they come in from backstage right next to Tower of Terror. Well, park was open at that point, and Tower of Terror was running, so he jumps off the course, goes and rides Tower of Terror quick, and then gets back into running.
Yeah.
And it's like that's amazing. That's such a great perk of running in Disney versus some of the other runs you can do. I've noticed with a lot of the different communities out there that they do have running groups
Mm-hmm.
and support groups for that. So yeah, something that I'd like to do someday too, but haven't gotten there either. So uh, you mentioned Haunted Mansion, and one of I mentioned already during the show that I'm a D23 Gold member.
Hmm.
So I'm following a lot of the news that they're putting out, a lot of the content that they're putting out, and they released a Haunted Mansion trivia quiz. It was a 10-question quiz, and my wife and I were just kind of sitting at the table, pretty much just wasting time. I don't remember what was actually going on. Oh, we were eating some lunch. But so I sat down and I said, "Hey, Haunted Mansion trivia." And we did terrible. I think we did 3 out of 10. And some of it was, lyrics of the song, and some
Hmm.
of it was what you might see in the ride. And we fashioned ourselves some pretty big Haunted Mansion fans as well. But when it came to the trivia, we were not good at it. But it was fun. We had a really good time thinking about it, talking about it, challenging each other over whether we were right or not before looking up the right answers.
Hmm.
And, it was a good 10, 15 minutes of pretending we were at Disney, I guess,
Yeah.
getting away for a little bit. And that's what we're here to talk about, is that how do we deal with getting away? Maybe it's just 10 minutes to do this 10-minute question
Hmm.
trivia quiz, or, you know, or it's at the end of the night when we sit down and we pull up the happily ever after fireworks. You guys can find them out there. There's 3 videos I'm thinking of right off the top of my head that are good quality videos. One is which Disney has put out themselves now, um, which you can just sit back. It's a 20-minute video, enjoy the fireworks, and I it's a great way for us to keep connected.
Hmm.
And that's the whole point of all this, is just to keep connected, keep talking about it. Those fireworks for us are very special to us. We really enjoy those fireworks. It's always We were there right after they'd started them for happily ever after, uh, and we got to enjoy it as part of our anniversary when we were there. So they mean something to us. So to pull them up and just sit back and watch them has been wonderful.
Oh yeah, I do the same thing, and I can think of videos too off the top of my head. There's the Diz video that Craig Williams made, who is self-proclaimed Disney fireworks master. So
Yeah, if
oh,
you ask him, he's got the best fireworks videos out there.
yeah. But yeah, it's all about kind of, and this is kind of what we want this podcast to be about, is injecting a little bit of Disney into your everyday life, and hopefully that can be what, like, this podcast can be one of those things. If you want to turn us on, and we'll just kind of talk back and forth about Disney and about the things that we do, being far away from Disney, and hopefully you find some enjoyment out of that. So next, we'll talk about some history. Brian, my buddy Brian here, is a Disney history buff. I like to think of myself as a Disney history buff, doing finger air quotes here, but Brian is one. I know a couple things, and I can kind of interject with my little thought bubbles. But Brian is the resident history buff here, so he's gonna talk to you about some Disney history.
Thanks for those words. I don't know if I want to call myself the master at all things Disney history, but I do have a pretty good interest in it, and I've read a few things and put a few things together, and I'm always learning something new. But uh, when it comes to Magic Kingdom, by the time Walt has come to Disney World in Florida, he doesn't care for Magic Kingdom anymore. He's not really worried about it, but he knows it's a necessary evil. He's got to have it so that he has the money to do Epcot. And so in the process of coming up with the land, where they're going to put things, uh, he was on the land at one time. Um, Obviously, he passed away before Disney World was opened. Uh, but he was there. He did choose the spot, which, as I've seen in most of the things Walt came up with over his lifetime, everyone thought he was nuts to begin with. And, Snow White was called Walt's Folly, and it was a major cash maker for them. So anyway, the one thing I wanted to bring up with this one is that if you want to find where he has been, the boat dock at the Contemporary is one area that he frequented as they were getting started. Obviously, the Contemporary hadn't been built yet, but they were starting to work on some of the land clearing. So if you walk out the back of the Contemporary towards those boat docks, he walked there. I was able to do that on our last trip. I wouldn't say I got chills or anything, but at least I could say, hey, he was here. I hope at some point in the next couple of years I'll make it to Disneyland. And Mikhailo, I know you've said that Disneyland, you can kind of get those feelings that the history is there. So being the history buff, as you have called me, that's when I'm sure I'll feel more like that. But yeah, so he did what he needed to do to create the Magic Kingdom in order to fund Epcot.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he didn't get to that point, but we can go over that later.
Oh yeah, and Disneyland, I've been able to be there once, and just the history alone, and just being there and knowing that this park created something that I love so dearly is kind of amazing. And there's just so much history. It's just steeped in history for the Disney company and Walt himself. And so yeah, it's amazing. We can have an entire Disneyland episode where we talk about things that we would like to do or things that we have done. But yeah, it's I enjoy history too, and that was definitely something that I was able to appreciate while I was there. Was the history of everything. And then with Epcot too, it was just like Walt's plans for Epcot were so out there, and you kind of get that a little bit with how Disney World itself was put together and is put together, with the way they've structured their infrastructure and everything like that. But it's just the history that goes into the acquisition of land and stuff like that is all super intriguing, but it was all meant for Epcot, which is very cool.
Right, and I don't want to throw Magic Kingdom to the side, as in like he didn't really want to worry about it. There are stories of him being out where Main Street is, crouching down just like a kid and saying, here, kind of painting the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where this is going to be. Here's where the castle is. Here's where the Emporium will be. And looking at it through the eyes of a kid. And that's why he was getting down, crouching down,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at from that level. And that's the kind of detail that he went in. And that's the kind of detail that intrigues me.
Mm-hmm.
Like every little minutia he seemed to have thought of. And if he didn't think of it, somebody else was there to help him with it. And we can get into more as we go on through our podcast and speak to how he was able to put two people that didn't need to be working or didn't even have any business working on something together, and they would come up with these amazing items. Case in point, back to Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
Exitencio wrote the lyrics. He's an artist. Never wrote lyrics in his life. And he says, X, go write this. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he did it.
Exactly. Yep.
It's so, that was kind of where Disneyland even started too, was that they said, well, we'll go start pulling together amusement park people. And he's like, no, we're going to use our own people. And he just started taking people out of the movie studio and putting them on Disneyland. And it's amazing story, and I love talking about it, and I hope we can get more time to do it.
Definitely. Awesome. So today, we're able to go over some planning tips for you guys, went over a review of Be Our Guest, gave you some current events, some coping strategies with some social media, and we even got to a little history there with Brian. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please rate us on iTunes and subscribe. Email us at milesfrommainstreetpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts, and visit us on Facebook under Miles from Main Street. We'll be bringing more to you weekly and look forward to talking to you then.
Until next week, remember,
Some live close,
but most of us don't.
so let's talk about it.